Welcome to the IAB UK Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Futurescape, The Road to 2030, a 5-part mini-series from the IAB UK Podcast, exploring what the future of digital advertising could look like in 5 years' time. I'm James Chandler, the IAB's Chief Strategy Officer, and for this series, I'll be joined by experts from across the industry to unpack the biggest shifts predicted in our Futurescape research, all recorded in a studio where the plants are fake, but the predictions are very real. Futurescape is our most future-facing project to date, designed to help advertisers, agencies and media owners make sense of where we're heading and what it will take to thrive in the years ahead. And if you're listening to this audio only right now, you can also watch the episode on the IAB's YouTube channel, assuming you're not already doing that via smart glasses, in which case, please carry on. In this final episode, we're turning our attention to technology, specifically how advancements in AI and wearables are reshaping how consumers discover and interact with brands. As AI becomes embedded in everything from search to shopping, and wearables evolve to span smart glasses and biometric clothing, we're asking what this means for discovery, targeting and trust. Joining me to get into all of the above and much more is Phil Rowley, Head of Futures at Omnicom Media Group UK, and Shruti Dube, Meta's UK Country Director. From how advertisers can stand out in an AI-led world to the skills gap agencies need to address now, we're looking ahead to the very near future of tech and what that means for advertising. Let's get into it. Shruti, Phil, thank you very much for joining me. AI being talked up, Phil, as one of the biggest technological disruptors that's probably going to be, certainly in our lifetime, possibly in generations. How do you think it's going to change the way people use the internet?
Well, I would caution against the idea of it being a behaviour change and more of a behaviour evolution or a behaviour augmentation. I think that if you look at the history of technology, it's all been about extending our natural abilities. So the axe is an extension of the arm, a bicycle is an extension of the leg, a camera is an extension of the eye, and I think AI is just an extension of our brains. So in that regard, I think the behaviours that we currently have, the need to connect, the need to love, the need to make money, all of those human behaviours, I think, are simply about to receive an enhancement, an augmentation, or an extension as a result of that technological advancement. But the thing that I think is perhaps you can pull out of that is the idea of frictionlessness. There's a book at the moment which I urge you read by the Suskins, a father and son team, and there is a book called The Future of Professions, where they say the future of jobs is essentially democratization and depremiumization. So what we mean ultimately is that anything which involved a middleman that would preside over a process or navigating through a labyrinth of expertise, and then you hire that person for that expertise, the floor raises on that. A lot more of those simple everyday interactions will become frictionless as a result of AI automating many of the processes which took man hours in order to avail ourselves of. So ultimately, I think it's a behaviour extension, but it's a more frictionless way to enhancing the behaviours and the interactions and the engagements we seek in everyday life all the time anyway.
It's a hugely exciting time at Meta when it comes to AI as well, sort of dominating everything that you do. Give us a sense of how you guys are thinking about AI.
I think I really like that idea of augmentation and how that is going to integrate into every aspect of our life. And honestly, sometimes when you look at new technology, it is easy to overestimate what it can do in the near term and massively underestimate what it is going to do in the long term. But if I think about AI, the pace of change is honestly unprecedented, because I remember I took on this role about 3 months ago, and I stood on stage and I talked about how we have Meta AI, our AI assistant, which has 700 million active users, and it's on track to be 1 billion by the end of this year. In May, Mark Zuckerberg stood up and said, we've achieved that 1 billion already. And that is just what shows how everything is constantly changing. And I think there's a few ways in which we're seeing it come to the fore. The first is just a much greater degree of personalization.
Yeah.
It is something that people expect, that the experiences that they're going to have, the content discovery, the recommendations, the advertising that they're served, everything is going to be just that much more tailored to their experiences, which means it is a lot more engaging and unique to them and intuitive in ways that was never possible before. So I think that is a really big thing that is coming to the fore. The second one that we're seeing is the rise of these conversational interfaces, let's call it that. You started with that, which are those wearable interfaces, the glasses, and now you have these voice assistants and that are embedded in all of this wearables that are with you every single time. And through that is what we're accessing our information, reaching out to people, controlling devices, and it is a lot more natural in a way to do that than I suppose looking at a screen before. And I think there's the third aspect of it, which is the rise of the assistants or agents, which are integrated in every aspect of our life. And we think of it that as it can be in your digital world, your wearable world, or indeed robotic elements of it. So think of it this way, that you have this autonomous entity that can be just so intelligent, it's taking decisions on your behalf. And I imagine my life as a mum of 2 little kids, where there are school sending us information on 5 different apps. And when I wake up in the morning, the AI agent has just looked through all of the apps, figured out the various costumes that are needed for 5 different events in a week. And it has prepared a basket for me to just click yes on my favorite retail website. All the while, my personal styling agent has looked at my diary, the unpredictable weather here in London, and said, this is what you would have worn on previous occasions. I think you'd like to wear this. And then I can actually walk out of home just completely zen and my life sorted, unlike the frazzled life that I live today. I can't wait for that future to be here.
Well, I think I want that app as well. And it's very much this frictionless point that you're making. All of those bits in the middle of the decisioning that we have to do kind of go away. I want to take that Shruti's point around brand discovery. In effect, I guess AI is becoming sort of this personal creator and recommendation engine. Do you think we get to a point in media where the brief is really potentially for an AI agent rather than a person? Just have agents talking to agents to do the thing that people have done for so long in media.
That's a potential. I don't think we're quite yet. I mean, there yet. I think we've been talking about marketing to the machine for many years, but I don't think we're quite at that threshold yet. But I would say what we must not forget in this conversation ultimately is that AI agent is still a proxy for the person it serves. Okay, so ultimately we are still advertising, targeting and marketing to a person with their own loves and hates, their own nexuses of preferences. And hopefully the AI is a proxy for those preferences. Yeah. And I don't think we should lose sight of that. I also don't think we should lose sight of the idea behind that there's a role for brand advertising at a broad level, and there is also, of course, a role for personalisation. Yeah. But I think I would caution against the idea of saying that everything needs to be personalised to the nth degree, because I think we get a lot of our cultural meaning from interacting with broad elements that are, interacting with broad cultural effects. So in other words, World Cup and Glastonbury. Mm-hmm. So yes, AI agents represent the pinnacle of a technological wave where we could personalize things to the nth degree, but I don't necessarily think that we should think that that's the ultimate in marketing. There are many other tools in the trade, and AI is going to is a rising tide that lifts all boats in that regard.
Yeah. Let me ask about brand building. The Futurescape report goes to a degree and says that brand building is going to be more important than it's ever been before, particularly when you have AI making decisions about what it pulls out and what it serves you. I guess if you're a big established brand, the Unilevers, the P&Gs, the Coca-Colas of this world, you've got that establishment, people know and love you. What about some of those challenger brands or smaller businesses, SMEs, D2Cs? How do they kind of leverage AI to make sure that they're too building their brand rather than that kind of bottom of the funnel activation stuff?
I think actually Gen AI, generative AI, is a game changer for all of these smaller up and coming brands, because it really does level that playing field. Because with some of the tools that we've been putting out there, like our Advantage Plus suite of products, where you can have, just through a few images that you're putting in, videos getting generated. You don't need to have deep pockets, these large teams that are going and building and having the best creative ideas. I think creativity will always have a place because humans are drawn to the story behind a brand. And I think, in a sense, generative AI is just allowing brands, small or big, to be able to find what is the story that they want to tell, and then put that into the machine to find the right audience for that'll resonate most deeply, and then you can actually make that match happen. And I think it just builds on the philosophy that we've had for a long time on two grounds. One is to always build for businesses no matter the size. That's what we've done in advertising, and that's what we're going to do in the space of generative AI with all of the tools that we're putting out there. And then the other piece that really does exist in here is that small businesses have the real chance of connecting in with the culture and the conversation that is happening in a way that that is universally available, and it isn't just in the purview of the larger advertisers that are there. And through the open source philosophy that we've had for such a long time, through the open source projects like Python, which was the large language model that we've had, or the Open Compute project, we've, as Meta, been a really big believer in open source. And I think because we have that and we're putting it out there, making it as easy for any large business or small business to build out on, whether it's advertising or honestly business AI agents. That's something that Mark Zuckerberg talked about in Connect in 2024, where he said that today every business has a website, their phone number, a social media presence, but eventually large businesses are already doing this, that they have oftentimes an AI agent that can be their voice to their customers. We want to make it as easy for the smallest of businesses to have an AI agent that can represent just the content that they have and the catalog that they have and be driving sales for them. And that is all going to be made possible much in the same way like we made tools available for advertising to be made available for when it comes to generative AI and all of the branding or whatever else is your business aim, small or big business alike.
Yeah. Is AI this kind of great leveler, whether you're a bit big or small, wherever you are in the world, it can do that job?
Yes, I like to think that it raises the floor and it raises the ceiling as well, because I think it's possible to become a little bit unnerved about the idea of certain creative processes being made easier for entry-level creative practitioners. But at the same time, those tools can be used by top-end creatives with tremendous skill in order to elevate the capacity at the other end as well. So in that regard, I think that it is democratizing creativity, but it is also extending and enhancing creativity at the top end.
These are new skills that we're all kind of having to learn. Our children, no doubt, will learn these things in schools in a way that we kind of didn't. Thinking about fluency with AI, whose job do you think it is to make sure that we're all pretty fluent and be able to do this? It could be prompting, it could be whatever it is. Is that on the government? Is that a problem that advertising should try and solve?
I think that's a really good point, and I'm going to slightly dodge the question, but make an observation that I think that within the confines of this podcast, present company accepted, I think we sometimes have the misconception that everybody is talking about AI and that everybody fully understands the impact that this has had. But outside the bubble of marketing, outside the bubble of advertising, I'm not sure that that's the case. I think that whilst people might understand the letters AI and might understand what the potential is, perhaps through the lens of Hollywood films, which are often inaccurate, I think the thing that, our understanding of the way that we use AI and interact with AI is perhaps advanced than that of the general public, purely because it's our jobs to understand. Actually, I think that what the public want, going back to our point again, is, using your example up front, is just frictionless engagements on a daily basis. And it doesn't matter whether that's AI or not. In the same way as when they search for something online, there's probably been a whole load of algorithmic computation in the background, which, depending on your opinion, could be considered to be artificial intelligence or not. They've been using that for 30 years and have never really put the letters A and I over the top of that. And I think that that's the way to think about this, actually, is that perhaps if we get obsessed with the label AI, we take away from actually the effect that it will have on society, on culture, on people, people in their everyday interactions. Now, I am acutely aware that that's not answered the question, but I'm restating the problem, which is I don't think we are quite aware of just the way that the general public think of this. And in that regard, we do really need to work out a way of not just raising awareness of it, but also raising the potential of what it can deliver, not its existence, but that which it can deliver.
And maybe the frictionless comes in with it, you know, can it summarize an email? Could it summarize a WhatsApp message for me? I mean, just small things that you don't have to spell out to people, but perhaps they feel the effect of things kind of being easier. Perhaps that's it. We don't have to show our workings out and how clever we are. Perhaps it just needs to...
Exactly. I don't think, and that conversation of how many tokens have gone into a model, you know, I mean...
Which I find fascinating, by
yes,
the way.
it is. It's great. And there is a place for it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's how we will know which model and so on. But for the everyday use, we absolutely need people to just experience this technology. And I think to your question of whose responsibility it is, like with every big major shift that happens, it is a collective.
Yeah.
The government's leaning in. We have now the AI opportunities plan, the 10-year industrial strategy that's been released, which includes the AI plan in it, as well as the skills building that we need to do on it. And similarly, as companies that are in it and understand leaders, I think it's incredibly important that we use the lens of this is the work that we're doing, this is how your lives can be better. It can be faster, it can create more time to do the things you love doing and take away the mundane. And I think that's a way of drawing people in. Yeah. And the conversations I'm having with clients, often it's in different departments. You always see these people who are just more leaned into the technology. They just are experimenting with it, maybe not talking about it very much, but they're doing that. So when we spot those people, give them early access to tools, they are able to marry what they're seeing on the AI and the problems that department generally has been solving. And then when they come together is when we see faster adoption for the rest of the department coming along, for instance. Yeah. So I think it's on all of us, and really like we should all just be trying to see which have we used AI in the last, 5 hours, 1 hour, and so on, and see that how can it make it better, whatever we're doing.
Yeah, nice. And you're nodding vigorously here.
Yeah, I think it's about selling the benefit, not what the technology is, but what it can do.
Yeah. I'm going to sort of switch into wearables with some kind of seamless link. It feels to me like wearables, which in a way have kind of had their moment for a long time. We've often thought it's maybe the technology's not there, but it feels to me it's a bit more like consumer behaviour. Is AI this kind of rocket fuel that infused with wearables are really going to see wearables take off, and whether it's glasses or it's rings or smart clothing, whatever it might be, do you think AI is a bit of a catalyst for wearable technology?
It could be. I mean, I'm keen to sort of popularise this term of Sisyphean technology. So Sisyphus was a guy that pushed a boulder up a hill and then it rolled back down again. Right. And there are some technologies which, no matter how many times we try to introduce them and say, this is it, here it's this time, it really is happening, and then the boulder just rolls down the hill again and somebody tries to push it up. There are certain technologies which for some reason the general public don't seem to take and they don't really appear to want. But AI might be the final way that we introduce wearables and for that technology to stick and find its use case. Yeah. So I'm hearing this phrase, the AIoT, the artificial intelligence of things. Right. And I think that's an interesting terminology, because essentially what we're doing is blending AI and AIoT to the point where now wearables, I think, can measure so much more about physical environments, predict so much more about the state of the human body, understand where you are looking, what you are wearing, where you are going, how you got there, and other things like biological markers like your heart rate and your sweat rate and all the rest of it. Those things, for the first time, I think that meaning can be drawn, patterns can be inferred from those disparate set of data points, whereas previously that was not something that was within AI's gift. And now for the first time, I would say it's really beginning to cross a threshold. And in that regard, yes, I think that this AIoT is something which represents perhaps the crossing of a Rubicon, and this might actually be a technology that holds fast for the first time.
And do you think are these kind of behaviours things we do that are additive to what we're already doing on our smartphones, or do you think one starts to replace the other?
I think the analogy I use for this is that if you went out onto the road now, you would see a diesel car, a petrol car, an EV, and you might, if you wait long enough, even see a hydrogen bus go past. Okay, so technologies don't simply replace a new technology. They blend together, they cross-pollinate, and you'll often see vinyl alongside downloads. You'll see cashless societies alongside people trying to find small change in their wallet. Okay, so in other words, I don't think this is about replacement. This is about a spectrum or a blending of options, and some might rise to the top naturally, and some might fade into the background. But we're not going to know how those two things, fully understand the interplay between those disparate sets of options until we see it out in the field on a mass scale. And that's how I think that we'll test that theory.
Yeah, there won't be a day where I'm like, God, I remember I used my phone for this yesterday, and now I'm sort of doing it at all.
I don't think so, because one of the reasons is, from an evolutionary standpoint, touch came before speech. Okay, so the idea of us being tactile with our devices due to opposable thumbs, due to the fact that, the precision grip has been with us for 200,000 years. I still think that typing on a QWERTY keyboard, which, don't forget, is from the era of the typewriter, we still do that today, despite the fact that we can narrate our emails, means that there's something about touch and feeling that is still has primacy within our interaction with technology. So that's not to denigrate wearables, that's not to denigrate any kind of voice technology, but I think that it finds its natural level in the standard of interaction that we naturally are drawn to.
What do you think from an advertiser point of view, Shruti? Because, all of this technology, the data set that Phil's talked about, it's a lot more intimate, it's a lot more personal. That could be a watch that I wear, it could be a pair of glasses, could be a ring, whatever. It's different to things that I'm seeing on a screen, be it a computer or a device or a phone. Yeah. How do you think advertisers kind of navigate that new intimacy that you get with wearables?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point that you are making. I do wonder if it is actually just in the crossover that we will see the overlap, but then one will become the more dominant technology, even if it doesn't completely get replaced. But and the reason I say that is I wonder if you've seen that comic strip of the evolution of humans that goes from us being on our fours, and then we go up and we're standing, and then all to just stand in front of a screen, or like be in front of that, or be looking down into our phones. And that just doesn't seem like the right way it should be. And I think that the best thing around wearables is that it gives us the chance to go back, like you reclaim your space instead of just those hinged shoulders and you're in that screen constantly. You actually are integrating that into your life. So you have your voice, and what you can see is the input into the AI, and that is just helping you. You can see your big screen in front of you. If you want to, you can do the work that you want to. But if not, and anyway, people are, by 2050, half of the world is expected to wear glasses anyway. Just swap it over with AI-powered glasses. So it's not so much about a behavior change, to your point. It's just an augmentation of what might happen. And to your question of advertisers and what they can be doing in this time, I think it's an incredibly exciting time. And it all starts with, as people, as leaders, are we dabbling in this technology? Have we picked up a pair of Ray-Ban Meta glasses? And we often do this with clients, and just experience it. What does this look like? And we've seen some fascinating use cases where advertisers and creators have taken these Ray-Ban Metas, and with nearly minimal production value, just shot what they were seeing using those glasses. And that is some of the best performing ads, with the highest return on ad spends. So I think we're scratching the surface, honestly, of what's going to be possible. And like with everything we do, we start with how can we make sure that this is a great consumer product. When people use it in their everyday, they just love it. They love it in their personal lives. They play sport with it. They interact with their kids, their friends, and so on. And when that happens, it'll become easier for the business use cases to get integrated. And it all starts by experimenting. So that's what I'd say. Let's experiment with it.
I like this idea of play. Perhaps we don't play enough. Perhaps we've become a bit sort of fixed in the way things are.
Probably. I think that, the majority of again, it's because our business because of our business requires us to understand it. I think we're more likely to view it through a business lens rather than a leisure lens. And perhaps if we viewed it through that lens of how the general public would perhaps find benefit in it, that would be more appropriate and certainly more insightful for us to understand how it really worked in the field.
Yeah. What do you think on this intimacy point? I mean, these devices are honest. There's a whole data point here. The data that they're capturing is arguably more intimate than it's ever been before. It's more intimate than a smart doorbell or things we've sort of brought into our home. Is there more caution we've got to apply here? Is there?
I think if the technology is smart, then you also have to come up with smart solutions. And I think there's some central principles which we would hope would continue across all technologies, which is the option for some form of anonymity, an understanding about how the data is captured, when it's captured and what is done with it, and feeling safe to use it ultimately. And as long as those are enshrined in T's and C's and legal structures, I think people can use them, make their choice to use them on the basis that they understand that they have the ability to opt out or turn off or understand what is done with ultimately with their data, because it is beneficial. You know, the data can bring real experience, enhance experiences, and as we may come on to talk to, particularly in the case of AIoT or wearables, enhance really important aspects of like health, for instance, as well, which is certainly, you know, the trade-off on the exchange it's arguably worth it in certain circumstances.
Well, I think even something like sleep, and you see, I'd imagine sales of Whoop have exponentially risen, but not subjectively thinking I've had a good night's sleep, be able to see the data and recommendations how you can get better, things you could eat, like improving your well-being would be kind of incredible. All based on you opting in. You are seeing a huge spectrum of AI in all sorts of different use cases, all sorts of different industry. Give me a sense of what's exciting you at the moment that you think will be kind of commonplace in 5 years' time when we get to 2030.
Well, it's a direct extension of everything you've just said, right? And also, I've already mentioned it, which is health. I think AI is really going to contribute to our longevity, ultimately. We've seen AI be used to speed up drug developments. We've seen AI used in robots like Da Vinci, which is a robot that can operate with alarming precision.
Wow.
And we've also seen it used to analyze CT scans as well with incredible proficiency. What's interesting, though, is that there's always a human required to steward that process, as indeed there should be. And I think health's a really interesting way into understanding the way that this is going, which is whilst the AI in health will provide the precision and the accuracy, the clinician, the human clinician, will provide the compassion. And so there's that human element and there's that AI precision, and together in tandem, I think that could be emblematic and a microcosm of the way that we should be thinking about AI moving forward, which is retaining those unique human capabilities, but enhancing them and superpowering through AI technologies, removing the barriers to creativity, removing the barriers to engaging with our everyday lives. And that's the way that I see that it can operate at its best.
And what are some of the things that you're seeing, Shruti?
So I think firstly to that point of open source is, I find the underpinning of these multiple use cases to flourish. The fact that everything that we do all of the heavy lifting of the training and the infrastructure, and then we put our models out there, just means that we've seen all of these incredible use cases, like an AI tutoring bot that has been set up that is based on multiple hours and hours of transcripts anonymized, that then is this companion to students all across the UK when they are struggling in their secondary school and they don't have someone that they can go to. Actually, the AI is a very companion next to them. Or healthcare, to your point of the incredible use cases in healthcare. I think there's a trust here in London that has been able to identify with 99.99% accuracy, just with an iPhone and a magnifying lens, some of the skin cancers, and that is an incredible use case, and it is the worst it is going to be today. AI is only going to get much better from here on out. And then other cases where someone's taken the open source model and made the first large language model in Swahili to provide maternal health care in low-income households in East Africa. I mean, the use cases are just blow your mind, because there's people applying their own specialized lives to those use cases. But then for myself, I just think in the everyday, there's little moments. I sometimes don't remember people's names and faces. The AI can just remind me. It'll save me from so many embarrassing situations. It's just be like, I'll go and be like, oh, nice to meet you. Oh, no, I should have said nice to see you because I have met them before, and so on. So it's just so many examples of how it can definitely enrich my lives and just the lives of everyday people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter like the big things that'll go on and happen in the world, great, but just the fact that you can answer your kids' questions doesn't need to be the fifth what. And you just know, okay, yes, this is this, and I have the answer finally, and get a little more respect from your kids. I think that's a win every day I'll take.
I love it. Brilliant. Shruti, Phil, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Shruti Dube and Phil Rowley there sharing their reflections on how AI and wearable tech are set to enhance the way people discover, interact with and experience brands, and what that all means for the future of advertising. Conversational interfaces to smart glasses and AI-assisted decision-making were only scratching the surface of what's possible. As they discuss, this next wave of technology isn't just about efficiency, it's about augmentation. AI has the potential to act as an extension of ourselves, enhancing our creativity, freeing us from all the mundane and making interactions more intuitive, more human. If you'd like to explore more, the full Futurescape research is linked in the episode notes, and you can also watch the full video of this conversation over on the IAB's YouTube channel. And that brings us to the end of this mini-series. Whether you've listened to every episode or just dipped into a couple, we hope that we've given you some fresh insight into where digital advertising is headed and how we can make sure that this chapter of tech works for people first. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
IAB UK, building a better future for digital advertising for the benefit of everyone.